And here we are again.
We made it. Thank God you have the energy today, because I'm going to be the low pulling, low gravitational.
You can't set that expectation at the beginning.
Yeah, well, they know to rely on you for hot topics.
The hot topics.
Hottest topics. Wasn't that a store when we were growing up?
Yes, for sure. Oh, when you were growing up. I didn't have Hot Topic. I would have been proud of Hot Topic, but no.
So should we start off with our average, our email, our Instagram?
Absolutely.
So at Instagram, you can find us at Kung Fu Conversations or KF Conversations. Also on Facebook, Kung Fu Conversations Podcast. You can get a hold of us through Instagram or Facebook and say hi to me. I'm Randall Davis. You can find us on YouTube at Kung Fu Conversations, on Teespring at Kung Fu Conversations Podcast, at Buy Me a Coffee at Kung Fu Con Pod. That's Kung Fu Con Pod at Buy Me a Coffee. And we have little schools that we goof around with and have a great time and teach traditional Chinese martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And your school name, my friend?
Is Boulder Internal Arts here in Boulder, Colorado. Which you can check out my blog that I run from time to time. It's a good place to get a hold of me. Or you can check it out on Instagram. And I also have a Facebook page.
Boulder Internal Arts.
Yeah, Boulder Internal Arts.
And you can check out some awesome Xingyi and some awesome Bagua with Owen. And then I'm Randall Davis at Red Forest Chinese Boxing. Red like the color, forest like the trees, boxing like Muhammad Ali. Was there Chinese in there too? Like the delicious food. And you can find me at YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll teach you some Wing Chun here in lovely Longmont, Colorado.
No TikTok?
No TikTok. No TikTok, no.
You're not TikToking yet?
Not yet.
I know.
It could happen.
It could happen. After Rosa May, after she sort of endorsed it.
Rosa, man.
She was, she said she was just screwing around, and it really kind of blew up for her. So I was like, well, right on. That's cool.
Maybe someday, following Rosa's footsteps.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today, my friend?
Today we're going to have kind of an interesting topic. We try to keep it interesting. We try to keep it up to date here on the show. So today we're going to talk about the idea of conflating two things, being good with fighting. And what this means is, in my experience, I see a lot of people who are like, well, my teacher, is good at fighting, and they fought a lot, and they have won lots of tournaments, or they have done this and that. But I don't think that necessarily means that they're good at their art. And, I think that those are two things that we can make a distinction around. I don't think that you necessarily have to be good at fighting to be good at your art. Now, I think it has to be sort of within reason. I always think of these two things kind of like a Venn diagram, right? With like two circles, and they're interlocked in the middle with a big area of overlap. And that area of overlap would be fighting. So, somebody who can apply the art may not be the best teacher. They may not be the best practitioner, but they're good at fighting. Mm-hmm. So, I think that in terms of Chinese martial arts, especially today, a lot of people really conflate those two ideas.
I think another thing that happens is, and it's just another question too, is are you fighting with or through the art, or are you just doing random combatives, or are you doing Sanda? I know a lot of people that confuse their art with Sanda. Mm-hmm. And it's like, bro, you're kickboxing. I mean, sure, you got a few throws and a few sweeps in there, but I don't see any of your long fist stuff. And they're like, oh, well, that's just the body training, and then this is how we apply it. I'm like, your whole form is a complete long fist form. I'm actually watching you do arm breaks in the form, or setups for chin na, or setups for a throw, or setups, for a kick or whatever, or a sweep, but you're not doing it. You're doing Sanda, and that's not what it is. And I think this happens maybe a little more in the Northern Arts. I could be wrong. I've sparred with some Hunga guys. I've sparred with some Southern Mantis guys, some Wide Eyebrow guys, and a lot of them look like their art when they move. Mm-hmm. They are trying to apply the tactics and the power source and the methodology and the frame of the forms and kata that they work on the 2-man sets on the drills. So I find that, at least in the Southern arts, and that could be my workings with the people that I was working with.
Sure.
just that could be just my opinion on my, how many people I've worked with, but like my Northern guys, a lot of them are doing Sanda.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with Sanda.
No, Sanda's good.
But are you applying your art?
Right.
And that begs the question is, well, why even practice your art? Why not just practice Sanda? Or why not just practice fighting?
Sure.
And I don't know. To me, at least, if you don't have a bridge between the forms and the fighting of what the art expresses, I think you're missing something.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that in terms of, Sanda by itself is good. I think, most Chinese martial arts by themselves can be good. But I think, people are looking for a usage format, kind of a place that they can test what they know. And I think that that's a good thing too. But I think the problem is, and I see this a lot with like, Shaolin schools and Wudang schools and whatnot, is that they'll do a Shaolin form, like you were saying, or they'll do like a Wudang Tai Chi form, and then when they're asked to show application or show something, it looks like Sanda. It doesn't look like what they were doing, and I think that, and that's okay. Just be clear about it. Be like, yeah, this is my form. This is what I like to train. This is Sanda. This is how I like to fight. Okay, that's fine.
But that's the government prescription.
That is the government prescription.
And so I wonder sometimes too, especially for the Western students that go over there, whether they be from Germany or, Spain, America, it doesn't matter. I wonder a lot too if the Western student or the foreign student is unaware of that. They are, if you're not told or taught something, then it's rare when somebody starts to put the two pieces together and be like, wait a minute, there is no bridge between the form and any application that I'm using for fighting. If you're okay with that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you're okay with that, and you're okay with that with your journey, with your training, with your teaching, that's okay. I guess what riles my feathers is when somebody comes to you as a student, and if that's your teaching model, it's like, okay, we got forms over here and we got Sanda over here. If that's your teaching model, that's fine. But be upfront with your student.
Yeah, definitely be upfront. Because
if somebody goes to you and wants to learn classical or authentic, martial arts, and they want the authentic or classical bunny ears in the air applications, if you will. You don't like using that term, but we're going to have to use it for this context, for either self-defense or fighting or interaction with another human being of some kind, and you're only teaching them Sanda and you're like, this is authentic. It's not. It's not. And you've bought into it as well. And it's just, it's continuing the propagation of something that is not so much authentic.
Yeah, very much so. And moreover, it's that's a very modern construct. It's not necessarily, I don't think it's necessarily, old in any way or traditional, So I think that being said, I think those are both really good topics and both of the ideas, but by the same token, it's like, okay, well, just because somebody is good at their fighting method and their art doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at their art. I mean, I guess it depends on how you evaluate it. Because you could say, well, yeah, this guy was a good fighter and he did, Bai Mei, or he did Hunga, or he did whatever. But, maybe he was a shitty practitioner, which is okay. I mean, because, maybe he just wanted to learn how to fight, and he learned how to fight well with his art, and he didn't get kind of, I think of Infu a little bit from Bagua, Deng Haichuan's first student. And he was famous for his skill. Like, he was a good fighter. He was very competent. And then towards the end of his life, he just stopped practicing. He didn't really practice anymore. And it was just like, yeah, he made a bunch of money, and he was comfortable, and he was just like, And he can still fight. So, I think that there's something to be said for that.
Absolutely. You look at other things too. It's like, well, maybe this guy over here, this Chen guy, Joe, he's a great fighter, but is he using Chen? Or he maybe does use Chen applications, but he doesn't have the body method. He doesn't have the refinement. He doesn't have the power source. It's just an external expression of what Chen could be.
Sure.
But he can apply it. And, whatever the applications are, he's going to get you. But that might not be as deep or as rich as Chen can go.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we also talk a little bit about what makes it a Chinese art. Maybe the fighting isn't the only thing that the art is about.
Mm-hmm.
And body refinement, human refinement, if you will, even. You're trying to change the nervous system. You're trying to change the way you breathe. You're trying to change your musculature. You're trying to change your joints. You're trying to change everything on a physical scale to the point. Why aren't you also trying to change maybe who you are as a person? Working on the ethical and the moral sides of things as well, as long as that pathway is presented to you. But that's the other thing, too, that the Chinese arts can present to somebody is a way to change themselves. It's a process. It's a method. So if you're only good at the fighting part of that art, that is a rare thing these days.
True that.
But are you a decent human being? Are you somebody worth learning those tactics? That's something that I struggle with. I have to look in the mirror and it's like, okay, well, maybe you need to dig a little bit deeper into some of these little ghosts in the closet, and it's amazing what having a true body practice as well as a mind practice can do to change the human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that developmentally, that's definitely another side of it. And, I also think as you get older, you begin to think about well, I mean, in the beginning for me, martial arts really was about kind of learning how to fight. It was learning about how to, sort of discipline myself and to have more of a lifestyle and to, learn, oh, well, yeah, maybe I don't want to drink tonight because I got to go to class tomorrow morning.
Sure.
And in that way.
Better decisions.
Yeah, exactly. It made me a better person over time. Because I prioritized the things that I loved and the things that I was interested in doing. So I guess in terms of that, it was very instrumental developmentally for me. I would never say that I was a fighter in any way, shape, or form. I could definitely apply what I knew, which was very little. But by the same token, I think that it's important to understand the applications. I think it's an important part of the art to, at least as far as the internal martial arts, maybe do some push hands, do some, get some resistance and get some feedback. If that's your thing, and if it's not, then that's okay. But I think it's important to be clear about it. I don't think it's good for people to go and say, oh yeah, I'm a Tai Chi teacher and I do this and that, but I don't do push hands. We don't do any contact. And I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. Just, be upfront about that. Once again, just be honest. It's like, okay, well, we're just doing the form. We're just doing the form. We're here to, just for health. We're not going to pretend like we, the applications or it's going to sort of magically come out if you ever got into an altercation or you had to defend yourself. Oh no, I've been doing Tai Chi for 20 years, but you've never done any push hands, any application, any stress testing, any sort of sparring.
No one's thrown a punch in 20 years that you've done Tai Chi.
Precisely.
So it does. It's a fascinating scale that seems to swing one way or the other. And that's why a lot of these conversations for us are always open-ended. You guys are going to have your own opinions about how you look at things, but we're just maybe trying to give a perspective that some people don't think about. Something that this reminds me of before we start to wrap this up here in a few minutes, and it's another topic, and it's maybe a topic that we'll have to save for another, discussion, is something that you told me about. It's like, I don't know why everybody that wants energy work or health-related stuff, they don't just find a really good Qigong guy. If you don't want to fight, go into Qigong.
Sure.
There are so many, and there's even medical Qigongs, guys.
Mm-hmm.
There are Qigongs out there that people have done thousands of hours of real research on that help people. If you're looking for health and not for fighting, go find a really highly qualified, well-practiced Qigong practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And because trying to find that through a martial art like Xingyi or Bagua or even a good Tai Chi is hard as hell.
Yeah, it's way harder.
It is just, it's bang your head into a door difficult because you isolate one thing. Okay, maybe, well, now I'm doing Santi and there's so many different layers to Santi. Okay, now I'm doing, R Xingyi's Qigong. Okay, now I'm doing R Xingyi's 2-man application. Okay, now I'm doing R Xingyi, and it's so deep. It's like, how much can I spend on the just the Qigong side of it Where if I had a Qigong practice over here, then maybe I could work on that.
Yeah, for sure. You're focusing your energy, time, and efforts on something specific. Looking for a specific result. But I think it's important to sort of at the outset define what you're looking for. And a lot of people, that may be what they're looking for. They're just looking for more of a health practice. And I'm like, that's good. Then I would for sure just focus on doing like Qigong. And some Neigongs and some things like that, because it's going to make your body strong. You're going to get more of the health benefit without all the added extra complexity of trying to do something as complicated as Tai Chi and then, learn to apply it possibly. I think that's a whole nother, those two things are just going to complicate whatever your goal is.
The movement's so much more advanced too. I feel like a good Qigong or, things like that. Some of it's just static posture work or, it's just seated breathing. But like doing something like Tai Chi or Bagua, holy crap. Hold under your butt because that is complex movement, or at least it should be. And if you're going to get the true health out of it, or even the combat side of it, you're going to have to work hard at it and refine the hell out of it.
Yeah, that's sort of a multiple decade undertaking for sure. But I think that, I like your point about the Qigong and the Neigong, and you'll definitely, if you study like a traditional Chinese martial art, you're definitely going to get that, because that's most of the time that's part of a traditional system. They'll do a lot of Neigongs, they'll do a lot of different types of gongs for training the hands and feet, training the body, and so on and so forth. And those are good. That's good stuff. That's a lot of, after 28 years of practicing, that's a lot of what I focus on. Just, from a health perspective, I just think it's good over time. But, by the same token, it's like, are you interested in application? If you're interested in application, then you should study the martial side of one of these arts. I think that's sort of the delineation. If you're not interested in martial application, or you're not interested in sort of that level of feedback in your nervous system, meaning that you're going to, psychologically, there may be some pressure there from somebody else if you're doing push hands, or, you may have the physical feedback. If you're not interested in that, then yeah, I would definitely go down the Qigong road. Now
I have something dirty to say. We could maybe finish with this. This is the worst question ever. You ready for this?
No.
Is a really good Qigong practitioner that also does kickboxing, are they doing Chinese martial arts?